Hi Year 5 and welcome to a very special history lesson for you all today. Now usually at the end of every year we take the Year 5 students to Kourion for the history trip. Unfortunately, due to circumstances, we cannot do that this year, but we have planned something really special and have managed to achieve the next best thing, which is instead of taking you to Kourion, we are bringing Kourion to you. Well, what is Kourion? Kourion was an ancient Greek city established around the 12th century BC, before Christ, 1200 years before Christ to be exact, by Greek settlers who came from Argos. And the city flourished and became a very important centre on the island of Cyprus. In fact, Kourion was far more important than the city of Limassol. Limassol probably got its name from Nemesos, taking its roots from the word anamesos, meaning the city in between, meaning it was the city or the settlement in between the greater and more important cities of Kourion and Amathus. And over the years, Greek buildings were built, temples were built, but later in 58 BC, when the Romans took over Cyprus, Kourion became Kourion and developed as a Roman city with more Roman gods, and later Christianity settled in. So to summarise, Kourion is an ancient Greek city which was then taken over by the Romans, and as a result is a mishmash and hodgepodge of Greek and Roman buildings and culture all together in one place. It's a vastly and massively important archaeological site, and we are really looking forward to taking you there today and giving you a little bit of a fun history lesson. Don't forget to fill in those answer forms as we go through it. Enjoy, and I'll see you all very soon. Hi Year 5, the teachers are here at Kourion and we are going to take you for a virtual tour.
Come on.
Okay, our first visit will be the house of Eustolios. Let's go.
Okay, so the raised section of the building, third group to the north and northeast, has got a reception and a bathing area. Okay, this long central rectangular room has got a mosaic floor, which Mr. Wall's already shown you a photograph of. There were birds on there, iconic designs, ladies and instruments. Okay.
The citizens of Kourion were very miserable, so Eustolios saw this and he wanted to present them with love. So he gave them these baths to take care of, to make them happy again.
So, because all of this was being built at a time when the religion was changing and Christianity was coming in to Cyprus, you can see elements of Christian symbols in the mosaic, such as the fish, which was the secret symbol of Christianity. Now, a lot of this house here has fallen away due to earthquakes and erosion, but these would have been quite wealthy living areas and rooms for entertaining guests.
So Eustolios' house was built in the ancient Roman period, and he built it for himself to live in. It was actually excavated in 1938, and that's when it was thought there was a palace. There was a lot of remodeling that's been done since then, and it's been very, very well preserved since then.
So now we're leaving Eustolios' house and going to the amphitheater.
Yeah.
this is an ancient amphitheater in Kourion, built around the same time as the palace, and this hole here is where they would keep and release the lions for lion fighting. And here we see now a lion coming. In later years though, this is now used for actors to hide when they hold plays in these amphitheaters. The amphitheater was originally constructed at the end of the 2nd century BC, and there was some damage to the theatre, and Emperor Augustus reconstructed some parts of it, removing some of the seats from the amphitheater later on.
Το θέατρο καταστράφηκε και εγκαταλείφθηκε οριστικά τον 4ο μετά Χριστό αιώνα. Η σημερινή μορφή του θεάτρου είναι αποτέλεσμα εκτεταμένων εργασιών αποκατάστασης που έγιναν από τον γνωστό Έλληνα αναστηλωτή Αντώνη Τραυλό στα μέσα του περασμένου αιώνα. Είχε χωρητικότητα 3.000 θεατών.
This is a very important spot in the amphitheatre. It's marked with a circle on the floor. If you stand and speak from this spot, you can be heard perfectly from any position within the amphitheatre. That's fantastic maths and science for you right there.
Today in the Roman private house, which has a very interesting history in part of the Kourion ruins.
And here is a Greek goddess to tell us all about it.
Right, so here I am, taking shelter from the sun, up a tree that's actually grown from the middle of what was once a beautiful house built here up at Kourion, but is now known as the earthquake house. This is where the remaining bodies that lay from a family could be found just in this area here, and they were then taken to the museum over in Episcopi. The house was built between the year of 0 and 100 AD, and unfortunately collapsed in the earthquake in the 4th century, so between 200 and 300 AD. So it's quite an old house.
So this is a huge part of the city of Kourion, and it includes the Agora, which is the market, the bathhouse right up there at the top, and over there you can see the early Christian basilica, which is like a church. And we're going to go and explore it all right now.
So this large Agora area covers more than 14,000 square meters of area, and it was excavated beginning of 1975.
Okay, so this is the central part of the Agora, which, as you can see, there's one remaining column here that's in perfect condition, said to be made of marble. Now the top is a really intricate, pretty design known as a Corinthian pillar top. Okay, there's 2 or 3 different types, but this is a Corinthian one. There would have been approximately 14 columns around the market area, which would have served as the perimeter. Okay, and then all the other buildings that Mr. Wall told you about earlier would have been off at different areas around the outside of this central part.
Okay, so this church was built around the beginning of the 5th century AD, and it was built on top of previous Roman buildings. When Christianity came, obviously it changed everything. It changed the way that people worshipped. They got rid of the old Roman gods, which were based on the old Greek gods, so they needed a place to worship God, and they built built it here, destroyed all the other buildings, and put a church and basilica here. That was eventually destroyed during the 7th century, during the Arab raids when Islam started to spread across the Mediterranean.
Η Επισκοπική Βασιλική του Κουρίου είναι ένα από τα σημαντικότερα παλαιοχριστιανικά μνημεία της νήσου. Το μνημείο αυτό καταστράφηκε κατά τη Β' Αραβική Επιδρομή γύρω στα 654 μετά Χριστού.
And here we are in the ancient Greek baths where mostly the males would come to bathe.
And these piles of terracotta slates were all part of the underground heating system, which meant that the bottom of the pool would be nice and warm. And there were 3 pools usually. There would be a warm pool, a cold pool, and a tepid pool. And inside those back areas they would have furnaces burning, and then that would circulate the warm air around underneath the pool. Genius.
Okay, so as Mr. Wall said, these are the heated areas where they would have heated the baths and the steam rooms. Now they started to build the public baths in 50 BC, which if you remember is 50 years before the birth of Christ, and they finished building the first phase in 100 AD. Okay, so think about how long that was. They then went on to build the second and the third phase, which took 265 years. Okay.
We have just arrived at the gladiator house. Let's go in and have a look.
These are mosaics of some of the gladiators who would have taken part in competitions at the stadium and the amphitheater. It's even got the names on it. There's Lytras and Darius. Interesting.
So the House of Gladiators here, which was either a luxury private house or alternatively a small training ground, like an ancient gym that we will go to today. Constructed in the second half of the 3rd century, named after the mosaics represented on the floor from the gladiators. This area was also destroyed by an earthquake like the house we saw earlier.